Hi, I'm Rachel Simone Weil, Program Manager for the Microsoft Edge DevTools. The Edge browser recently adopted the Chromium platform and with it, the Chromium DevTools. On the Edge DevTools team, we know developer tools include and go beyond the Edge browser. So that's why we develop a number of companion tools that help you stay productive throughout the development, debugging, and delivery of your code. In this session, I'll be doing some demos of these tools, including VS Code extensions, remote debugging, and testing and automation tools, so you can have confidence in your process from beginning to end. And I really think of these tools as mix and match. Use what's useful to you based on your workflow and your needs. I made a gist on GitHub to collect links to all the downloads, tools, and documentation mentioned in this video, so I will mention it a few times throughout the talk. But for those who need it right now, the link is aka.ms/devtools2020. So if you're new to Chromium DevTools or want to hear more about what's new and next in the in-browser DevTools in Edge, check out my other Microsoft Build session, which focuses entirely on using the new in-browser Edge DevTools. So, okay, enough talking, let's kick off some demos. So we are going to demo with a basic web app. This one happens to be a to-do app built in React, though that part isn't too important. The whole idea here is to kind of model the phases of the developer lifecycle, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start up my web app, and we can see what it looks like so far. Okay, very exciting. Let's go ahead and add some to-dos, obligatory part of any demo. Okay, cool. We are kind of at the beginning of our developer journey here. This is the develop phase, right? We're writing code. And so I want to go ahead and demo some VS Code extensions that work great in combination with Edge and that help you kind of at the early phases of the web development lifecycle. And the first VS Code extension that I want to demo is the WebHint extension. So WebHint is an open source project under the OpenJS Foundation, and its contributors include folks from Edge, from Firefox, from the open source community at large, with the goal of collecting best practices for the web and integrating them into developer tools. So this extension, while it's not maintained by Microsoft, several of the project's contributors, myself included, come from the Edge DevTools team because we understand how challenging it can be to keep on top of accessibility, cross-browser compat, performance, security, PWA recommendations, and so on. So the WebHint VS Code extension collects best practices using tools like Xcore, data sets from MDN. And so using this VS Code extension, you're going to get that feedback directly in your IDE well before you're at the point of deploying your app. So, the idea here is you want to build an app where accessibility or cross-browser compat is not tacked on, but actually part of your development process. So you can see here, I have this red squiggly, and when I mouse over it, I'm actually getting information letting me know that I'm missing some content. And if I open up this problems pane here, just like a linter, you're going to see it's giving me real-time warnings about things in my code base that I need to fix. And so, yeah, I'm seeing here that my link should have a rel attribute value that includes the no referrer keyword. And there was another one about no opener. So I actually get feedback on how to fix these problems. And you can see as I fix them, they're actually going away in the problems pane now. So this is using the baseline recommended set of hints that come with the extension. But you can actually configure what hints trigger, much like a linter, with a custom hint.rc file. So you can learn more about the custom configurations and hints, all of that good stuff at WebHint.io. And hey, if you have ideas or you want to contribute, this is an open source project. You can find it on GitHub at WebHint.io. So as you kind of start moving between coding and debugging, I think this next VS Code extension will be really helpful. So, at this point in the web development process, you would typically open up the browser, look at your app, open the DevTools, go back to VS Code, and that is a totally valid workflow. But with the new Microsoft Edge tools for VS Code extension, you can connect to a running instance of Edge and see and interact with the browser and the DevTools elements pane right inside VS Code. So let me demo this to show exactly what I mean. So I have just started up my web app again, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the extension and connect to my web app. So now here's our web app, great. And when I switch back to VS Code, we can actually see, oh, let me get some more real estate here, but we could actually see the app and the elements pane from DevTools all without leaving VS Code. And this is really awesome. We can interact with the app, we can inspect everything you'd sort of expect from the elements pane in DevTools. Because I have source maps set up in this demo, I'm able to do some really cool back and forth here. So let me make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. So here, when I click on the SAS file, I'm actually taken to the correct line in VS Code, and I can go in and let's say like change the color of this header. And when I do that and hit save, then I should actually see that update in the web app. But then when I switch back to VS Code, I'm actually seeing it update as in that view as well. So this is really cool. You get the best of both worlds. You know, you can interact with your web app as if you were in the browser without leaving VS Code. There's some neat features in here as well, kind of like setting breakpoints and then being able to interact with them. So this extension is currently called Elements for Microsoft Edge. We're actually in the process of consolidating and renaming some of our Edge VS Code extensions so that you can get all the great features in a single VS Code extension. So be on the lookout for it under its new name, which is Microsoft Edge Chromium Tools for VS Code. We'll also be adding new functionality like network debugging tooling as well. So a lot of this, you know, we've talked about is really cool for debugging on your own machine, but there might be times in this life cycle when you want to do some remote debugging on a specific device. And that's something else you can totally do with Edge. So for the purposes of this demo, let's go big. I want to try my app out on a Surface Duo, which runs a version of the Android operating system. I don't actually have a Surface Duo, but I do have a Surface Duo emulator. So all I need to do is, once I have the emulator set up, go to the Edge Inspect page on my desktop, and there's nothing here yet, but once I open up Edge in the emulator, I'll be able to see it. So here's a quick video demonstrating that. On one of the Duo screens, we're going to access the App Store and open up the Microsoft Edge Android app, which you can get from the Google Play Store. And now because our web app is still running on localhost, I can actually open it in the Surface Duo emulator, and we'll be able to interact with it. You know, we'll see exactly what we saw on the desktop. We can go ahead here at this point and like add another to-do if we're so inclined. So yeah, let's do this. You'll see that the Duo emulator is now listed as a device in Edge Inspect, and we can go debug all of the tabs running in the Microsoft Edge app. And this same idea would work for PWAs as well. So now we've got our web app. We've got the DevTools dock to the right with screencasting enabled. So we're casting our web app from the Surface Duo emulator to our desktop version of Microsoft Edge, which is really cool. Now I can use DevTools to debug my web app running an Android on the Surface Duo emulator. So of course I showed this with the Surface Duo emulator because I don't actually have a Surface Duo, it's not out, but you could absolutely remote debug with the device itself. You could do remote debugging on Windows 10 or Windows 10X devices via the remote tools for Microsoft Edge app. So for more on that, check out our remote debugging docs. Again, that link is aka.ms/devtools2020. So remote debugging, of course, can be really useful in special cases or for in-depth device-specific debugging. But what about more kind of broad cross-browser testing that we typically do as we move closer to the delivery phase of the web development lifecycle? We've heard this is a major pain point during development, so I want to share some tools for automated testing with Microsoft Edge. Selenium WebDriver is one tool that you can use for this. So in my repo, I've got the Selenium 3 test, and it uses the Selenium Tools for Edge plugin. So we're setting use Chromium property to true. We've set up the path for the Edge binary, and then we can go ahead and run our script. This is an NPM script that installs Selenium 3 and the plugin. And then once that's all set up, we can actually watch Selenium run our test. Here it is. It's launched Microsoft Edge. It's going to test that a new to-do is successfully added. Yeah, we've got another test in here. So you'll see, hopefully both of these tests will pass. And yes, awesome. So there's also now Selenium 4 available in alpha that has built-in support for the new Edge browser. So if you're able to upgrade or you're interested in checking that out, the process is actually really similar. So you'll see I have an NPM script here in my code base that installs Selenium 4 via NPM. One benefit is that Selenium Tools for Edge, again, is built in, so you don't have that extra pip install step. So once I run this, it's going to run the new Selenium, and then it's going to actually run our tests. And this will look really similar to Selenium 3, and hopefully, again, we'll see that our tests pass. So thrilling. All right, excellent. So next up, I'll be showing Playwright, which is a cross-browser automation library that enables you to run tests not only in Chromium-based browsers like Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome, but also Safari and Firefox. So in this example, I'll be using Jest as the test runner and Playwright to automate Edge. Again, similarly, we're going to set up the path to Edge. Here I've got the path right there. Normally we would put this in headless mode, but for the purposes of this demo, I've set headless to false. So I will go ahead. Actually, first I need to restart the web app, and then let's go ahead and run the test now. And we should see Playwright launch Edge here in a moment. Excellent. Navigated, it ran really fast, but you'll see that both of these tests in the test suite actually pass, which is awesome. So for the automating of other browsers, it would be just as easy as adding a few lines to set those up for those other browsers. So if you're interested, do go check out Playwright, the GitHub repos on GitHub. Would love to hear how this is working for you. So yeah, I think these are really cool. They're really, it's really great to have automated ways to run these tests. Drop them into your CI/CD processes so you aren't doing kind of scattershot works on my machine type testing. So we've talked a little bit about developing, the debugging. We're kind of moving toward the end of the developer lifecycle with delivery. I know if apps only took 10 minutes to build, right? But let's talk a little bit more about CI/CD and the delivery phase. So I want to show another great tool for CI/CD, which is WebHint. Wait, didn't we already talk about WebHint? We did. So I mentioned WebHint earlier when I was showing the VS Code extension, but the WebHint team has actually not only published the VS Code extension, but also a browser extension and a CLI. And I want to talk about the CLI for a minute because the same great insights that you're getting from VS Code about, things like accessibility and CSS features, you can also get those from the WebHint CLI, which will give you sort of a readout of your results. So you can npm install hint to your machine and run it locally. You can even run npx hint, which is what I'm demoing here, just to kind of prove that it works. So all I've done is typed npx hint and the URL, which for our app is localhost 4200. Now that it's started, you're seeing the automation running, and it will close the browser. So now I have this readout, and it found some very cool things that I forgot to fix in VS Code. And you can see here that it's also created a report for me in HTML format, which is really cool. And of course, like the point here is if you can do it in a CLI, you can automate it with Azure Pipelines, Circle CI, Travis, any system you might be using right alongside your linter. So, imagine having the ability to fail a build because your navigation menus weren't accessible or because you have some code that isn't compatible with, say, IE11. So that to me is really cool. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of what the Edge DevTools team is working on beyond the browser, whether that's around automation and testing support, remote debugging, VS Code extensions, all these things that help you move between the different tasks and needs in your web development lifecycle. So the call to action here, again, go check out aka.ms/devtools2020, where I collected links to all the resources and tools I talked about in this session. As always, the Edge DevTools team really wants to hear from you. We want to know if these tools are working for you, and if not, how we can help make them better. If you're using Edge, Canary, or Dev, use the feedback icon in DevTools to send us direct feedback. We're also on Twitter at Edge DevTools. Thank you so much for watching, and happy coding.